The Great Wall, considered one of ancient man's most remarkable achievements, dating back more than 400 years before Christ, stretching more than 4,000 miles across the oldest civilization on Earth. China's history began more than 4,000 years ago. Through 4 millennia, the Chinese have erected some of the world's ancient wonders, monuments of the past that the West is just now beginning to understand. But despite their incredible history, the Chinese have been slow to move into the modern era. And although they are moving, there is still not much separating ancient China from modern China. But the people, the people. Now that's a different story. When these Americans meet these Chinese, it's almost like they grew up together. Although they live a world apart, different cultures, different ideologies. When they meet, there's something special, a special magic. A summer morning in Peking, the nation's capital, home to 10 million Chinese. This is where 80 Americans, most of them singers in a college choir, first encountered a culture so foreign it's almost like they stepped back in time. Things are different here. No one owns cars. Bicycles flood the streets. People wear only white or black or green or dark blue. No designer jeans or Bermuda shorts here. And everyone seems to be going somewhere. Outside their hotel, work has started early. They're digging a ditch here. The women working right alongside the men. And they're doing it the same way they would have done it 1,000, 2,000 years ago, by hand. No trucks or bulldozers, just sweat and brawn. But when you've got a country of 1 billion people, that sweat and brawn can accomplish a great deal. Why spend $30,000 on a backhoe when you've got 200 strong arms and legs who can do it just as well? Maybe not as fast, but time is something the Chinese seem to have an abundance of. For instance, while touring northern China, the Centenary College Choir witnessed further evidence of the slow pace of Chinese life. Farmers methodically drying wheat on roads that in the West would be crowded with rush hour traffic. They hardly seem to notice the buses trampling their grain. Another farmer prepares to till his fields with a water buffalo. No John Deere tractors here. Next to him, women work the fields with hoes, just the way their ancestors did. But while their ancestors lived under the rule of Chinese emperors, modern-day Chinese life is controlled by a rigid, unyielding government, communism, which seeks to make all Chinese equal by controlling the distribution of wealth and possessions. At the heart of that is the commune. Here, millions of Chinese live and work, either in small factories or in the fields. In return, the commune provides for their basic needs: education, shelter, medicine. But life in a commune is not pretty. It is dirty, crowded, and by Western standards, primitive. But this is home. And while it may seem dismal to us, the Chinese seem content. They do laugh, and they do play. Besides music, sports is another universal language. And the Centenary Choir had no problem communicating that to their Chinese friends. For half an hour on a hot, sultry afternoon, they went toe-to-toe. jumping and swirling and diving and having an all-around good time with a group of Chinese boys who made up in spirit what they lacked in talent. Although the boys from the East had the home court advantage, an absence of height hurt them in the end. Final score, USA 10, China 8.
Hey, look. I don't want to watch this. It doesn't hurt.
And what better way to treat a basketball injury in a Chinese commune than with the ancient art of acupuncture? Although practiced in China for thousands of years, it is still a relative mystery to the West, and particularly to a 20-year-old tenor from Shreveport, Louisiana, Dwayne Rousseau. Although this may look like treatment for a twisted knee, it's actually designed to cure Dwayne's stomach pains.
It feels like electricity, but I don't know if that's because I'm scared or... Does it hurt? No, it doesn't hurt. It didn't hurt when he stuck it in or anything. No.
For what it's worth, Dwayne says after the acupuncture treatment, he had no more problems. Because almost no Chinese are allowed to own cars, long-distance travel throughout this huge country is done like this, in trains. But these are not sleek, modern passenger trains. Here again, China is 50 years behind the West. Old-fashioned steam engines still crisscross the country. But the countryside they meander through has seen a change. On a misty June afternoon, the slow-moving steam engine gave the choir a chance to see China's green revolution. Mile after mile of rice paddies and wheat fields. Testament to a Chinese success story. The elimination of what was once widespread starvation. However, although the food may be in ample supply, it was one thing the choir found a little too foreign. Although they tried, some Chinese delicacies proved to be a bit much. Duck's feet, cooked seaweed, jellyfish, and broiled squid were difficult to stomach.
Maybe my whole chapter right here. I found ham. Is it ham? Is it ham? And I think that.
And working with chopsticks wasn't easy either. But throughout the daily ordeal, they smiled, as did the Chinese. Indeed, the Chinese could not have been more gracious. At each stop, the American contingent was wined and dined at tables fit for kings, or in this case, emperors. There were toasts and exchange of greetings between the choir and Chinese government officials, often important officials, always smiling. But the Chinese would not let this group go without some music. First, they would usually sing to us, in this case, a fine Chinese tenor. Then we would sing to them, hear an American folk song about a mountain back home. Southward mountain, high on weary day. But the real singing came in a series of half a dozen concerts performed throughout China. The first, appropriately enough, in the nation's capital. They packed the house that night in Peking, with millions more listening in on Peking radio. Backstage, the pressure was building.
for millions of people, this will be the first time that they have heard American music. And so the responsibility on whether they want to hear any more depends on you. So no undue pressure, but we must be at our best tonight. We must be at our best.
And at their best, they were. They had traveled halfway around the world, spent a year in preparation for this moment. Whatever apprehension the choir may have had beforehand quickly vanished in a chorus of cheers. They loved them. Enthusiastic applause like this is rare in China. But this night, they were on their feet. And the biggest hit of the night, surprisingly, was an old John Denver favorite. It seems Denver had toured China recently, and this was one of the few American songs the Chinese were familiar with. They did like it. And to top off the evening, the choir decided to sing the only Chinese song they knew. An old Chinese nursery rhyme their tour guides had taught them just that day. Jiao ya, hao peng yo. I'm looking for a friend. When they weren't singing, they were traveling. And during those travels, they had a chance to see some of the oldest and most impressive sights on Earth. Here, the ancient walls of the Forbidden City. Located inside present-day Peking, this was home for 24 Chinese emperors who lived and ruled here over a period of 700 years. For centuries, this was sacred ground, forbidden to the common Chinese until the last 50 years. Today, it's China's second favorite tourist site, a 240-acre, 9,000-room masterpiece of Chinese architecture and culture, all built by hand nearly 1,000 years ago. Equally impressive is the Summer Palace, a haven for China's rulers fleeing Peking's oppressive summer heat. The Chinese, you see, considered their emperors to be gods and built their living quarters accordingly. The Summer Palace is actually a huge summer home, a playground with miles of gardens, walkways, and private ponds, where emperors would sit on lazy summer afternoons fishing. Inside the Summer Palace is Lake Kuming. Today, it's crowded with Chinese tourists on holiday. Centuries ago, it was dug out by thousands of Chinese laborers for the private enjoyment of their rulers. You see, what the emperors wanted, they usually got, no matter the cost. This boat, for instance, has never left this dock. It was constructed out of pure marble at the whim of an emperor's wife. Being an emperor sounded like a lot of fun. Several members of the choir decided they'd give it a try. The Chinese tourists got a kick out of that.
Oh, she's so cute. Oh,
The rapport between the Chinese and these young Americans was remarkable. Although they knew little of each other's language, they were always able to communicate. Communication was especially important at various souvenir stands. Here, we call them tourist traps. This one was strategically located at the entrance to the Ming tombs. For centuries, this was the sacred path taken by funeral processions carrying fallen emperors of the Ming dynasty. The road is bordered by massive stone statues of lions and elephants and soldiers, guarding the emperor during his passage to the afterlife. 3 stories underground, the vaults where 13 Ming Dynasty emperors rested until their discovery in the early part of this century. But even the famous Ming tombs pale when compared to China's #1 tourist attraction. Begun 2,000 years before Christ, it was originally a collection of individual walls scattered throughout northern China. But centuries ago, a single emperor ordered the walls be joined to form a single impregnable barrier against the Mongol hordes to the north. It has been called the Great Graveyard because of the thousands who died during its construction and whose bodies were entombed in its walls. But it's best known for what it is, the Great Wall. A wall so immense it's the only man-made object that can be seen from outer space. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world and an impressive place to take a picture. But China has other wonders. For centuries, its silk has been prized throughout the world. The Centenary College Choir got a rare look at the weaving process, from silkworm to silk blouse. A wonder first seen by Western eyes centuries ago upon the arrival in China of Marco Polo. One of China's living attractions is this fella, the panda. Normally active, even rambunctious, on this hot summer morning, he was just trying to stay cool. The choir did everything but sing to him, and judging by his response, maybe they should have given that a try.
Come over here. It's cool over here.
But there was no such problem down the road a piece. In a suburb of Peking, the choir got all the response they could have asked for. In fact, they had their hearts stolen by a group of Chinese kindergartners. It was love at first sight. After the dancing, the choir decided to thank the little people with a nursery rhyme the kindergartners no doubt had heard before. But the show wasn't over yet. A little later on, some of the girls decided to have their hair done.
I'm afraid she's going to chop it all off real short.
While outside, the guys were playing teeter-totter. Then the visit to this Chinese kindergarten on the other side of the world was topped off by a performance unlike anything we'd ever seen. It was enough to make any Chinese mom swell with pride. And the kids from the USA were pretty impressed, too. However, the Chinese children weren't the only ones making impressions. Their moms and dads at the Shanghai Conservatory had the centenary choir enraptured with a little grown-up Chinese entertainment. Of course, the Chinese insisted on a little entertainment themselves, and the choir naturally obliged, to everyone's delight. Indeed, so impressed were these two musical ensembles from halfway around the world with each other that they got almost giddy at the end, finally ending up arm in arm playing Ring Around the Conservatory and naturally singing that old Chinese favorite again and again. It was just a nursery rhyme, but it and the music they both loved seemed to bridge any gaps that might have existed. Although I must say, on this lazy summer afternoon in Shanghai, it was hard to believe that these were once the dreaded Red Horde of communist Red China, and these the Yankee dogs of imperialist America. China today is a country stumbling all over itself to offer a hand and a smile, and there were plenty of those during these 2 weeks in June. Whether it be from an old man marveling at a Polaroid picture of himself taken by some American teenager he can only smile at, or a little girl shyly accepting a peppermint candy, perhaps the first one she's ever had. Or a young Chinese boy discovering the joys of that most American invention, the Frisbee. Or this scene, teenage girls from opposite sides of the earth and vastly different cultures, nonetheless engaged in that most ancient adolescent pastime, girl talk. Wherever they went, whoever they encountered, it was always the same. The Chinese would gather around and stare. But these were not the stares of the suspicious or the sinister. These were the stares of a curious people. Two peoples, actually. Each sizing up the other. Each expecting the other to be different somehow. And each beginning to realize that down deep, we're really rather alike. Bound by a common humanity. And a universal language.
They seemed so ready, to take us in, and so happy, I think, to see us and to talk to us and to have contact with us. And I think the fact that we knew that we were bringing something to them that they could never have again.
I couldn't help liking them because they obviously loved us so much.
When you got right down to it, that the Chinese people really weren't that different from the American people. That wherever you go, pretty much people are people.
Stay tuned. In just a moment, we'll show some scenes from programs of interest to you coming up here on LPB.